views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I am your host, Cristina Pagan, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community. Coming up on today's show, we will have the latest from the world of politics when political commentators Michael Benjamin and JC Polanco join us on today's show. Then we'll find out what is trending in fashion, health, and entertainment with My Lifestyle magazine. Also, we'll find out how one church is using hip-hop, rap, and graffiti to serve the youth. Plus, the holiday season can be the best of times and the worst of times. We will discuss seasonal depression with a specialist in psychiatry. After that, we'll tell you about a licensed home care services agency that provides a range of home care services to patients in the Bronx. All this and much more is headed your way because we are now officially open. I'm your host, Cristina Pagan, and today is Wednesday, December 16th, and of course you're watching Open, a live program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us. You can find us on Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. In April, Freddie Gray, a young black Baltimore resident, died of a spinal cord injury after being detained by the police. 6 Baltimore officers have been charged with a range of crimes over Mr. Gray's death, including murder and manslaughter. After 10 hours of deliberations, jurors announced Tuesday that they were deadlocked over Freddie Gray's trial. What will happen if the jury does not come up with a decision soon? We're here to discuss this and more with political commentator Michael Benjamin.
Good morning. Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad. So, can you give us just a little bit of a history about this particular case? As some people might have forgotten, you know, short attention spans nowadays.
Well, Freddie Gray was a young Baltimore man who was spotted by police. He was chased. They grabbed him. I believe they roughed him up. They gave him a very rough van ride, and they believed the van ride for hours. He got injured, spinal cord injury. Was not reported. Was not taken to the hospital, and after a while, you know, there were a number of public protests, some would say riots in Baltimore that occurred last year, and then 6 officers were then indicted and charged with his murder. I believe Officer Robertson is the first to go on trial, and he's being tried for involuntary manslaughter and a couple other charges, you know, reckless endangerment, that sort of thing. And jury, as you know, right now is deadlocked in coming up with a verdict. I guess the concern is what happens if he is if there's a deadlock and he has to be tried again. How will the public react to his not being found guilty or clearly found you know, not guilty?
I'm being told that JC Polanco was on the phone. Can we hear Mr. Polanco? Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. What is your take on this case?
Well, you know, I'm waiting to see how the city reacts to this. Obviously, it's not going to be a popular decision, and I'm surprised myself. I don't know what Assemblyman Benjamin has just said, but I know I'm surprised by the decision.
What exactly does a deadlock mean? Some people might be a little confused about.
Well, in order to come with a verdict, you have to have all 12 jurors agreeing on the charges on one
on
or
this
all.
particular case, right?
In this case, all cases, you have 12 jurors. They all have to unanimously agree to either find a person guilty or not guilty. And in this case, apparently, they're deadlocked, whether it's 11-1 or 7-5. They can't come to a decision on any of the charges. And unanimous decision. The judge has told them to stay, continue to deliberate, and come back with a decision, with the unanimous decision. He does not want a deadlocked jury. And
what are people most afraid of if they do not come back with, I guess, a guilty verdict, or if they do come back with a not guilty verdict? What is the concern?
If the officer is acquitted or there's a deadlock, well, if he's acquitted, there's a fear that there could be possibly additional riots by the public who might be outraged that this happened. I can understand the jury's deadlock. Apparently, you know, the officer had a decent defense, apparently. He claims that he did try to make his fellow officers aware that Freddie Gray needed medical assistance. They ignored his request. And apparently he may have made that case to a good number of those jurors.
Interesting. I mean, this is part of a series that we've at least been seeing in the media of young African-American men being, and women as well, dying while in police custody. This is, I mean, how does one become deadlocked, and how do we move forward?
What makes this case interesting, too, is that the officers were quickly charged and indicted, and now they've gone to trial. Mr. Officer Robertson is the first of the 6, and over the course of the next 2 months, each of the other 5 officers will be tried in succession. So this is not going to end. They're all being tried individually. This is going to go on for a little while. The mayor of Baltimore, she has decided she's not going to seek re-election. So this had repercussions on her career. So a number of things are happening in Baltimore, and I think black Baltimore residents want to see justice in the Freddie Gray case. We'll see if it's achieved. And again, there's concern that if the officer is not found guilty, if he's acquitted, it could result in additional rioting. We don't know. We would hope not.
In other cases, similar to this, have the police officers been tried as a group, or are they normally tried individually? Well,
it depends what the officers want to do. I believe in the Amadou Diallo case, the officers were tried as a group. In other cases, they're tried individually if there's a group of officers that are charged with a crime. In New York, sometimes it can take 1, 2, or 3 years for these things to come to trial. And then in the Diallo case here in the Bronx, you may recall, the incident occurred in the Bronx, but they got to change the venue and moved it to Albany County, Albany, New York, for a trial where the jurors did not come from the Bronx. And I believe those officers...
Were they assumed it would be more impartial?
That was the assumption. They wouldn't be tainted by what happened down in the city. But my view in that and other cases is that if you commit a crime in a jurisdiction, you should be tried in that jurisdiction, unless that crime is so outlandish and there's so much negative publicity around it that you can't get a fair trial. You should then move. But I think the officers can get a fair trial whether they're in Baltimore County or they're in Bronx County.
Each one of these cases, you have to take individually. You just can't lump them all together and try to make an analysis. I think it's difficult, and it wouldn't be prudent to, just come out and say, we see that African American men and women are dying in police custody. I think the question itself is loaded.
Well, yeah, that was the intention. What is your take on that, though?
On what? On the fact that we have African Americans.
Well, not just African Americans. There's African Americans and Latinos and other people of color who have at least more visually in the media been harmed or killed in police custody or died in police custody. I don't want to say killed, died in police custody.
We got to look at the data. I'm one that we have to take everything individually on a case by case. There's just no way that we can make such a claim. I think that we have to see how many whites and Chinese and Indians also die in police custody. Why do they die in police custody? How do they die? Do they commit suicide? Are they killed by cops? I think all of those are questions that have to be asked before we make any assumptions as to how people die in police custody.
Well, we could ask you, JC, do you think that the victims and their families can get justice when they go when these officers are indicted and tried?
I mean, my question is, what's justice? Justice is to find the truth. And it seems as if, for many of us, justice means a guilty verdict. And if there's no guilty verdict, there has been no justice. And I think that's an appropriate way to look at the judicial system.
Well, all right, we're gonna move on to our next topic. So the next topic was the police department has been investigating threats against the New York City school system. The police commissioner said that there's no indication that there's a real severe threat, but apparently there have been rumors that there might be a terrorist threat to the city's school system. I actually haven't really heard anything about this.
There was an incident yesterday affecting the Los Angeles County Unified School District and New York City School District. They both received phone calls or emails from foreign entities claiming there would be an attack on schools and children using automatic weapons. The LA School District overreacted and closed their schools. The New York City School District, Chancellor Farina, with the mayor and with Police Commissioner Bratton, analyzed what came in and realized that it was not a credible threat. They found a number of things wrong with the message, that Allah was not capitalized. The language that was used did not lead New York City Police Department to believe it was a credible threat, and so New York City schools remained open. On the other hand, in Los Angeles, because of what happened in Southern California and San Bernardino with the attack and murders of 14 Californians, they erred on the side of caution and closed their schools. And so now there's a discussion of whether or not, how do you explain to children these sort of things happen, whether it's school shootings similar to Newtown or it's terrorist attacks on our schools and other public facilities. How does the public prepare? Siena College poll research recently revealed that a good 63% of New Yorkers are concerned about terrorism in New York affecting their lives, and some of you have changed their routines as a result of it. And so there's also concern is how are children affected by these kinds of things?
JC, what's your take on that?
Well, you know, I think I agree with Assemblyman. You know, this clearly is a situation where Los Angeles County overreacted, but they're in a different position. I can imagine how many threats the New York City school system gets weekly, from bombings to shootings, and they're so professional in the department that they can decipher what's real and what's not. And I think that Los Angeles at that level, they're not, Los Angeles County that is, they're not at the level of being such a target like we are. And I think they just overreacted because of inexperience. That would be my guess on this.
But, you know, the superintendent of the LA school system is Ramon Cartines, who was once chancellor here in New York. So we should have some real idea of how to handle these sort of things. But you have two different systems. Here in New York, the police and the schools work together. In LA, they're separated. There's no real liaison. Our school safety officers are actually part of the New York City Police Department. And so the threat comes in to the NYPD, and then there's a discussion. And then our officials and our administrators actually listen to our police officials who actually have experience and understand what's going on. And for the last almost 15 years now, we've been understanding and fighting terrorism in New York. And so I think we have a great deal of confidence in our Joint Terrorism Task Force and their assessments. So I think New Yorkers and our children can rest comfortably that you know, the police department and everyone here in New York is doing everything they can to keep us safe.
I've been watching a lot of television lately, and they've been talking about how, especially in this political climate with the presidential campaign coming up, how people all over the United States are now more scared about terrorism and what the threat is to small-town USA. And how, but New Yorkers specifically have been dealing with this or have dealt with this for 10, 15 plus years at this point. So New Yorkers to a certain extent have become a little numb, I understand.
Some have, others because of what's happened in San Bernardino, what's happened in Paris and other parts of the world are concerned. A friend of mine, he and his wife, they're expecting. He's concerned about his wife working in Manhattan, something happening. And in our conversation, I said to him, you know, there's a greater danger of your pregnant wife being struck and killed by an automobile than being killed in a terrorist attack. But again, he admitted that, but then he said, but he's still concerned about a terrorist attack in New York, because it only takes one, and then you lose your wife and your child.
That is a very good point.
Which is why we have to be very careful with the Syrian refugee crisis. You know, it only takes one bad guy to come in, and we'll be in a lot of trouble.
You sound like Ted Cruz.
You do. I mean,
you know, it's just reality. Reality is we have to be very careful. And because of the concern of your friend, I think we owe it to Americans to be very careful of who we let in during these troubling times.
Statistically, don't we have more homegrown terrorists than foreign terrorists?
No, you know what? I think that's the new way for us to deflect the reality that we have areas of the world that want to hurt us in droves, and we're going to look at these individual cases of these homegrown terrorists and try to somehow desensitize Americans to what's happening internationally. And it's a cool Jedi mind trick to say, yeah, don't worry about the Syrians because we have our own homegrown. It's bad enough we have to deal with homegrown. Why add more problems to us?
But the thing, JC, that we do is we do look at our homegrown terrorists, whether they're the Ku Klux Klan or the local drug gangs. We do keep databases on them, and we have an analysis. The same thing can be done for any refugee coming from any part of the world, who would be vetted.
That's not true, Assemblyman. We have people that could come in from Syria that aren't in any database because they haven't been considered terrorists or a threat ever, and they'll come in and cause havoc. And we know that's the case. You know, you're assuming that every Syrian that wants to hurt us is going to be in a database. I'm not concerned with the toddler. I'm concerned with that young male that may be radicalized. And I'm just concerned about your friend who has a pregnant wife, and he's concerned about terrorism, especially with his wife working in Manhattan. All it takes is one bad guy, and we'll be in a lot of problems.
I wish we could continue this discussion because I think both the Assemblyman and I have a lot to say. However, we have to take a quick break. But first, the Drame Center presented the Fabric of Complicity, an art exhibition that presents iconic images found on paper, money issued by the Confederate States of America that have been colorfully reproduced by the artist John Jones. BronxNet reporter Veronica Guiti was there.
Tonight was a book signing and exhibition of John Jones' work. His work brings out the images that were on Confederate money, the efforts to have propaganda to convince the North, the world, that slavery was respectable and nothing was wrong with the endeavor. Because they were making so much money, they eventually put the images on money.
Since I was an artist, my responsibility or my goal was to try to recreate these using a lot of color so that people could actually see and read about what really was on these currency. Because if you look at the images, they're so small and indistinct that if you don't pay attention to what's on there, you miss it very easily.
Black folks have contributed greatly to every aspect of this country, even the Civil War, even the Confederate South.
This is a country with a very short attention span, and it doesn't like to look back. But you can't understand our current conditions without understanding their genesis. So I think this is important in terms of just further documenting that.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Welcome back to Open. The holiday season can be the best of times and the worst of times for some. While it's a myth that suicide is more common around the holidays, high expectations, money concerns, and other holiday hazards can spell trouble for anyone, but especially those prone to depression. Here to discuss this and more is Dr. Lizica Troneci, Chair of the Department of Psychiatry at St. Barnabas Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, depression during the holidays. We were just talking off camera about how, I guess, as we get older, we become more aware, and over the last few years, there's become more awareness, either on television or media, about this affliction. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. There's a syndrome known now as the holiday depression. It's experienced by certain people. Some of them have more stressors, some of them have less stressors that contribute to this. And it's sadness, loneliness, insomnia. There's certain symptoms that occur around the holiday season.
But what is it about the holidays that really triggers it, and it's not the same during the rest of the year?
As the day shortens, the time change is a contributor as well. People are exposed to less light, sunlight. There's also an increase in expectations and demands. We were involved in more shopping, more visits, meeting family, friends. There's also overeating with the holiday season, and as much as we try to stay on a diet, we cannot.
So a little bit of self-loathing.
Absolutely, and that just contributes to sometimes feeling more depressed and anxious because we think of body image, self-esteem. There's also more drinking. Celebrations, parties.
And alcohol is a depressant, right?
Alcohol contributes to depression. Sometimes people use it to treat depression, actually. There's also just increase expectations and being around our family. Sometimes that puts pressure on us. You go to parties, you meet people who you feel they are more successful than you are, and then you start questioning your
becomes an existential crisis, right?
Yes, it does. So all of this can cause a feeling of depression and, again, sadness. And even though the holiday should be a season of joy and celebration, it becomes a dreading period of time.
Is it something that only happens around this particular holiday season, or do you see this happen around other holidays?
It happens also around Valentine's, Thanksgiving, but I think what makes it more acute now is that we really have the Thanksgiving, the main holidays, Christmas and other celebrations, Hanukkah, and then the New Year's Eve. So that's an extensive period of time, few weeks of holiday.
Overloaded with friends, family, expectations, money issues.
Money, finances, sometimes isolation. People suddenly become lonely. Their friends go and join their families in celebrating, and there's the loneliness as well.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that people can combat this feeling?
I would say just be more aware of yourself, of oneself, rest, try not to eat that much or drink, as we just discussed.
Oh man, you're killing all my joy here.
Yeah, well, and also set reasonable expectations, again, of yourself, of your family, of the ones around you. Sometimes we have the expectations of the lovely holidays of our childhood, of a perfect family image, which is, again, publicized. We see it in movies, and this predisposes us to just look upon ourselves or into ourselves, and sometimes we have misperceived, again, expectations.
Was it something that has become more prevalent because of media, that we've been shown this perfect image of what the holiday should be, what family should be, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to this Hollywood image? Is it something?
I think it's a contribution of several factors, and we just discussed them, but there are other people who are at risk, and those people who are at risk have experienced death in the family, have experienced divorce, separation from their loved ones. Even happy events such a new baby can become stressful and can sort of contribute to this holiday depression and anxiety.
So what are some of the misconceptions people have about depression that we might be able to dispel at this moment?
About depression around the holiday
depression
or depression in general?
Yeah.
Depression in general, first of all, again, and we cannot minimize the stigma associated with mental illness in general, but the misconception of depression, depression is an illness just as any other one, just as diabetes, just as hypertension. It can be treated. There's medication, there's therapy, counseling for it. You mentioned in the opening that there's a myth about an increased suicide risk. Actually, there are less suicides during this time, but people experience more thoughts of suicide or death. They do not act upon them, but they think about it.
Okay, so they become overthinking
and sensitive about losses and feeling sad and lonely.
Okay. So what should people do to, if they feel this way, where should they go?
I would say that since we're close, we're near family members, we should really be more aware of how family members feel and think around this season, and if we notice any relative or friend sad and lonely, we should try to approach them in a non-judgmental manner, ask what's going on, is there anything I can help. You can always extend yourself and try to schedule an appointment to see a mental health professional if the depression is really worsens and stays with the patient beyond the season of the holiday.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome.
We have to take a quick break, but first let's take a look at the New York City screening for Non essere cattivo, Italy's best foreign film submission for this year's Academy Awards. I was there, BronxNet reporter Cristina Pagan. I have more. Drugs, loyalty, love are just some of the major themes that are explored in the 2016 Oscar contender coming from Italy, Non essere cattivo.
Ma questo chi è? Un altro coglione come te?
Mi chiedo quanto può durare. Quanto può durare? Dura, guarda che dura.
The last film of writer-director Claudio Caligari before his untimely death, the project was continued and financed by his good friend and colleague, Valerio Mastandrea.
He made the rough cut, the first part of edition. Then, while he was doing the second, he passed away. So we remain with this precious song in our hands, and we work together until the end. Me, the editor, the many people.
The film follows two friends trying to find their place and happiness in 1995 Italy. They struggle with drugs, money, and their own relationship as they grow as men in a hard economic time. The audiences around the world have responded positively to the film. The New York crowd was captivated by the gritty, pure emotions portrayed on screen by the talented Italian cast. According to Mastandrea, Caligari's goal was to show the harshness of modern life. He believed that in reality you will always be struggling if you live according to society's demands.
He didn't want that I speak with actors. I'm an actor. And they was completely free to play because Claudio wasn't able to talk because of another cancer of 12 years ago. So he didn't want to talk with them, not because of the voice, but because he told them, you know what you have to do.
Non essere cattivo is the official Best Foreign Language Film submission from Italy for the 2016 Academy Awards and may soon be coming to theaters around the United States. Reporting for BronxNet, I'm Cristina Pagan. Welcome back to Open. I'm your host, Cristina Pagan. My Lifestyle magazine is a bilingual New York City-based magazine that brings you the latest trends in fashion, health, beauty, entertainment, and travel. Here to tell us more about the magazine is CEO and President Elizabeth Ortiz. Welcome.
Bienvenidos, gracias.
Bienvenidos.
Thank you so much.
So can you tell me what made you start My Lifestyle magazine?
Ooh, it's a long story. As an immigrant, I realized that there was something missing. There was a gap in the market, especially for us that come from different countries and come to adapt to our upbringing in the United States. So that's why I try to do it with My Lifestyle magazine. It's that platform where you allow all the millennials to feel connected. So you come from there, you have your Latin roots, however, you are bringing in the United States, so you have all the, you can eat an arepa, but you're also going to have that...
you're going to have some time later.
Exactly. So that's why we're doing it in a different aspects, in beauty, in health, entertainment, celebrity, and all those things that people like to talk about.
So why a magazine, though? Are you also online?
Yes.
Okay.
We started as print because after working as an event planner for different events, so what we do, we have this magazine to create kind of a summary of what happened during that event.
Okay.
When that finished, then we were like, okay, let's do a magazine, and then through the magazine, people are going to see the, the sponsor, what happened, the pictures and everything. People still like to feel. Mm-hmm. They still like to touch. They like to be on the cover of the magazine. They like to be featured. So that's what we do with the print version. Mm-hmm. However, we have to understand that all the digital world is coming up. So with the digital, we created that platform also online. That's what we're doing right now.
Which part appeals to you most? The entertainment, the makeup, the travel? What's your favorite?
You know what? I really like fashion. I like health. I like beauty. But I like the inside beauty. We have a section, we have a section in the magazine when we look to how we embrace women from the inside so they can feel beautiful on the outside. So everything else is there, you know, the fashion is there, the beauty is there, the makeup, the hair, everything is there. However, if you feel something inside, you're secure about yourself inside, you work on your inside, then everything else is gonna, you know, fall into place. So that's my favorite part of the whole section of the magazine.
What are you looking to do with your magazine, My Lifestyle? What is your base? How far do you distribute?
We have done a lot. It's 5 years in the business. We started as a sprint, and now we do PR. We produce events also, not only in New York. We also extended in Miami, South Africa, and Colombia. And right now, we had just an event in Miami, which is Art Basel Miami, which is the main art fair in the whole world. We had an event around 200 people came to the beautiful celebrities and focusing on the art from Latin America. Some people don't know, but we have many painters like Frida Kahlo, for example, which is very trendy right now. However, Madonna, for example, has a painting like many years ago of her. One of the few painters, Madonna, Leonardo DiCaprio has one of the painters, Oscar Murillo, which we talk in the magazine about it. And all these celebrities are getting Latin art. Botero, which is a Colombian sculptor, is right there on Time Warner Center. If you go right there, you see it, and it's a huge 15-feet sculpture. That's from a Colombian sculptor. So all these things are like really focusing and putting Latinos out there and letting know that we're not only, you know, on TV or writers, we're everywhere. Right, we're in Hollywood, tab artists. So that's what we're trying to focus and bring that to the world.
I think this is really great that particularly to have a Latina running her own company in this way. Like this is fantastic to see you doing your thing in like 5 years in the business, and also that your magazine is bilingual.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's can you talk to why bilingual?
Bilingual, it was targeting something that, like my needs, for example. I wanted to communicate to the world. So I wanted to do it in English, and I also wanted to do it in Spanish. Right now, like you see somebody like Sofia Vergara with her accent, with her attitude, she's bringing like the top highest, you know, actress in Hollywood. Yes. Just because she's so unique and she represents who we are. You don't have to fake it. You don't try to be who you're not. You are who you are, and that's, in that way, she's being unique. And that's what the Latinos are in. Not only Latinos, every single culture is like that. So I wanted to try to do both markets so people can connect it, that they can read the magazine, they can feel connected. That's basically what we did in 2 languages.
That's beautiful too, because you know, like we were talking off camera, how the millennials, they're, you know, you're here, you have your roots in your home country, but then you're here, you're growing up here, so English is your first language, but you want to continue and keep that connection to the language of your grandparents. And this is a wonderful way to do that.
And you cannot hide it, because it's you in your house, you dance, you eat, your mom, your grandma, everybody. The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you move, everything. So you cannot hide that. However, you have to be grateful that you are in a country like United States and also embrace it, because that also opens a lot of doors in the world. So you cannot deny all those influences in your life. Every time that you travel, every time that you open the world, you know, you get to experience something and you bring something with you. And that's the way of My Lifestyle magazine, is just connect. You know, connect the world with the 2 markets. Some things don't translate, right? Yeah.
You see something in English, it just doesn't translate to Spanish or vice versa.
I know, that's the hardest part. You have to get it.
You have to get it. So can you tell me a little bit about your winter edition that's coming up?
Yeah, this one right here is our winter edition, and that's what I told you, that we focus in art because we really wanted to embrace also those artists, as I told you before, that are making a difference in the world. Like right now we have like this designer, interior designer, he's Colombian, he came as an immigrant also, and then what he did, he just made all these beautiful restaurants, not only in Brooklyn, they also do it in Miami and also in New York.
We're looking at one of your videos.
Oh, this right here is amazing. That was the behind the scenes of this cover, Maria de Los Ángeles, which is also El Arte con Aroma de Mujer. You know, art with, that's what we decided to focus on. She's also opening her market, you know, in the American market. She's doing many different covers for not only magazines, but also body products and all that. And it's a way for her to open to the world, and that's through My Lifestyle magazine. Same thing with the designer. So
that's beautiful. What are you looking forward to next year?
Next year we already have.
Oh.
Yeah, we coming. The edition is almost ready, which is the beginning of the year. It's amazing. I can't say that right now, but I promise I come back to you and I bring it. And also we have different events. Besides the magazine, we also produce events around the world. We had the one that I told you in Miami. We have one in New York also. Health, beauty, entertainment events, and fashion, basically. So.
Can someone like me go to one of your events?
Of course, you guys are invited. You have to come and cover for us.
Oh,
you
fantastic.
have to be part of us.
We're going to be right there.
And bring me Michael.
I'm sure Michael would love to come. He wants to learn all about health and beauty and what it means to be a Latina.
And dance. He wants to dance reggaeton also.
Oh, of course. I've seen him do a little bit of bomba en plena too. So.
Oh, bomba stereo.
So, all right. So you have your print magazine, you do your PR. What is next for you? What do you want to do?
Well, I do TV segments also. I collaborate with us, Telemundo station also. And what I do is I just take advantage of whatever opportunity life gives me, and I try to do it the best way I can. I'm a dreamer. I'm an achiever. So what I do is whatever God put me on the door, I just try to make it the best I can and then use it. So I'm looking forward to 2016. I know a lot of things are going to happen. So I just waiting and excited. It's almost finished this year. No, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
So 2015 was a good year for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is something that you would say to the next generation of Latinos and Latinas coming up?
I had a little problem with the way that the new generation is coming out right now. They really focus on social media and all these fake lifestyles. I think that the new generation, they have to really realize that everything comes from the inside, as I told you. And sometimes they feel like very insecure because what they see somebody success, what they call success, because they have so many likes on social media, but it's not reality. So they really should focus on themselves, be secure of themselves, study, because education, I think, is the only way out of any situation that you have. You stick to your dream, you stick to your heart, and then through that you will be able to achieve it, and you will see your hard work at the end. You will see it. But just don't focus so much on the, the glamorous. And even though we touch subjects like this because it's a need, however, it's not the main thing in life. So they should focus more on the real life instead of the outside.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we will find out about an organization that provides a wide range of home care services to Bronx patients. We'll be right back.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet if you are in a shelter near you. Harlow. Oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's going to happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
So they say it's a man's world? Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
And welcome back to Open. Hand in Hand Together Home Care is a South Bronx organization that provides not only to Bronx residents, it is also so approved to deliver services throughout the 5 NYC boroughs as well as Westchester. So that's a pretty wide range. Here from Hand to Hand to tell us more is the Director of Business Development, Manny Yusupov, and the Administrator of Hand in Hand, Gil Rossellini. Welcome, gentlemen. Did I get that right? Because I didn't ask you your last name off camera. that was
so
tricksy
close,
of
you know what?
you.
You're not the only one. It's fine.
Tricksy of you,
It's not
sir.
easy.
Very close. You got it done. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us back.
No problem. So tell us a little bit about Hand in Hand, because you were here a long time ago.
We were here a while ago in the first, close to the beginning of our operation. We're back. This is close to our first full year of operations. So we wanted to, I think principally during this holiday season and time of thanks, to thank the community for the support that we've received with the beginning and growth of our agency. At this point, we've grown to an agency of, we have over 640 patients. We employ more than 650 caregivers. We have an office staff of over 20 people. As you mentioned, we're based in the Bronx. Our office is in the South Bronx. We're licensed to serve all 5 boroughs, as you mentioned, of the city and Westchester, but we have a very strong presence in the Bronx. When we were on earlier, we talked about what we do to recruit caregivers to make sure that the folks that we're sending into people's homes to take care of the elderly and the disabled are very capable of doing so, are trustworthy. We go through, we talked about what we do to make that happen. So we've made that happen. We've hired a large number of very good caregivers to look after our patients, and we've done that. We hired Manny, our Director of Business Development, to be the face of the company, to have a real presence in the community, and to also consolidate a lot of the attention that we've been getting, so that we can make sure, you know, we funnel it in the right direction, and that we make sure that we do a good job of getting starting the care promptly and doing a very good job. Manny's also going to talk a little bit about one of the programs that we have been approved to provide services for, the consumer-directed program that a lot of people have been interested in or curious about, don't know too much about. I think he's going to say a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit more about this program.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So thank you once again. I also want to thank you guys for having us again, and Gil for the benevolent introduction. I also, essentially, I mean, I want to just recap. Elaborating on what he said, we really are a full-service home care agency. We provide services ranging in the gamut, all the way from physical therapy and wound care to general help with activities of daily living like laundry, meals, helping with medication, etc. So, and everything in between. So it's a really, really beautiful thing, because the demographic that we target, the social group, the elderly and disabled, are the ones that really need the help the most. And it doesn't come at any cost for them. It's covered by insurance. So that's always a really, really amazing thing that we are very proud to provide to the community. My ultimate involvement here is outreach in the community. I deal directly with the medical institutions, the doctors, social workers, really anybody that can help us get the acknowledgement and really get the clients and the patients to come and realize the service, because half of these people don't even realize out there that they're really struggling with their daily lives and they could be getting help. They really could have an easier time, and it wouldn't come at any cost to them. Their families wouldn't have to worry. So that's really what we are looking to provide to the community, really looking to help out. And the program that he was discussing actually is CDPAP, Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program. And this program is actually incredibly beneficial, because certain people have, for example, certain people aren't too comfortable with having a regular home health aide that they haven't personally interviewed or screened themselves in their home. CDPAP is actually a program that allows the patient to choose a home health aide of their own desire, meaning it could be a family member, could be a friend, but they get to choose their home health aide, and that person is paid to be the home health aide for them. So a family member, you know, some people are already watching their parents, uncles, or relatives, cousins, whatever it may be.
Right.
And this gives them the opportunity to actually get paid to do it and not lose their money elsewhere. Some of them are worried, oh, I should be working, I should be doing this, and it's a burden. So
Right.
it really just changed the entire dynamic of helping the elderly, of helping the people in your life.
That's pretty interesting to have a family member help create, choose the person that's going to take care. Because I know my mother works in the home health system, and in that way, I've never heard of like the family. You just bring the person in.
It's a program that's been around for a while, but more recently, it's been really promoted by the New York State Department of Health, as well as the insurance companies that authorize us to provide the service, and we're one of the agencies that's been authorized to provide. So what we do is we're responsible for overseeing this to make sure that the caregiver, family member, or whomever they designate is getting the support they need to properly care for their relative. That can, even with providing some financial support to do so, it can be a very stressful endeavor. So we're there to provide that support and make sure that that it's handled properly and thoroughly and efficiently. People understand what they're getting into. The patient understands. The family member understands. We do an orientation. We have somebody assigned to work with those folks. And it's something people don't know about yet. When they do, they're very interested. And so we're happy we're very pleased that we've been chosen to provide this service, and are happy to be rolling it out and doing it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, how does one become involved in this program?
So essentially, I mean, the referral process is as simple as any other time when they get in the program. They would just include the fact that they wanted the CDPEP, and then we have our specialists reach out. They, discuss how we would go about the orientation, et cetera, to introduce the the designated home health aide. And it's a shorter orientation, but that process is similar to regular referrals. There's just a little bit of an extra step in inviting the individual chosen to partake as a home health aide.
What are some of the criteria that one would have to have in order to be part of
this program in general? Really what we're talking about, most of the services that we provide are to lower income elderly and disabled folks. So the criteria is they have to be low income, so most of them have to qualify for Medicaid or have Medicare, but really principally qualify for Medicaid. And then they have to be deemed eligible medically. So what happens is we work closely with the insurance company. If we get a referral, we would let the insurance company know. They would send one of their nurses out. It's a New York State Department of Health requirement that a nurse goes out, does an assessment. It's
That's
a very
my mom.
So you know about this. So there's this extensive assessment that they do where they not only talk to the person, but they observe them in their activities of daily living, and based on that assessment, a care plan is designated, and then the person is enrolled. With the managed long-term care plans, it's the beginning of each month that happens. So a big part of our job is to work closely with the insurance company to make sure that moves along quickly, that the assessment happens quickly, we get the results quickly, we can explain things to everybody involved. And so principally we're talking about lower income New Yorkers who have medical needs. Not only elderly, but also disabled folks. We can take care of folks as young as 18 through these programs.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we have to wrap up, but can you tell us where we can go to find out more information, or so people can take use of the service?
Absolutely. We have a fully functioning website that's up right now, handinhandhc.com. And that's HC as in Harold, C as in Carl, just in case I didn't pronounce it 100% correctly. But yeah, that's handinhandhc.com. You can reach out there. We have our number that
intake department. So if somebody calls and we have someone that can talk with them Spanish, Russian, Chinese.
All languages.
Yeah, if somebody needs another language in order for them to give them the information, they can call and we can take it from there. I think that number might be across.
There it is, 718-450-8054.
Yeah, just ask for intake.
Perfect.
And we'll be directed to
I
the
win.
right folks.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much, Christina. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
We have to take a quick break, but a church that uses the elements of hip-hop to inspire the youth. We'll be right back.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back. Elements Church is an urban church that uses the elements of hip-hop, rap, graffiti, breakdancing, DJing to connect and build a relationship with young adults. Here to tell us more is Pastor Efrain Alicea and Pastor Randy Mason. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're going to call you E.
Yes.
Because it makes you feel good.
That's fine.
Warm and squishy inside. So can you tell me what made you guys start Elements Church?
Well, we started the church mainly because we saw a segment of our people that really weren't being they weren't being talked to. They weren't being brought into the church. And churches are normally tradition, right? Traditional. And so we saw it. I mean, I went to a church myself one time. I had about 60 young people. I brought them to this event. And it was like an outreach, and there were gang members there. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. But I happened to have a cap on, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, in the house of the Lord, we remove our hats." And that just kind of shook me. Right? That kind of shook me because I thought to myself, man, so I can't come as I am. That's what you're telling me. And so we wanted to create a place where hip-hop heads are comfortable. Not only are they comfortable, but we speak in their language. And a lot of people like to say we're a hip-hop church, but if you're an African-American church, you don't run around going, "Hey, come to my African-American church," right?
Right.
Hip-hop is our culture, so we're just the church, and we use our culture and all the elements of it.
Well, hip-hop includes everybody, right? Hip-hop is a worldwide phenomenon at this point. Started here in the Boogie Down.
Right. Absolutely.
With the African-American and Latino youth, but has spread out to everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is it about hip-hop? Like most people, when they think hip-hop, like a lot of people think hip-hop is, materialistic. They think hip-hop is violent. They think hip-hop is misogynistic. And there is a lot of that in certain segments of hip-hop. How is Elements combating that? How is that different?
Well, I would say that that's a common misconception of what hip-hop is. I think that's due to the exploitation of hip-hop in mainstream media and corporations and people basically just trying to pimp the culture, basically. So that's what we get fed a lot through mainstream media, but hip-hop in itself is an amazing art form and culture, and it stems all the way back, going into poetry and jazz and soul and blues, and there's just so much more to hip-hop than what you get on, like, the big channels. And so that's what we do. We actually do classes. We have something called the Hip Hop and Heart Workshop, where we teach creative writing, poetry, hip-hop, songwriting, producing music. We have b-boy classes where NDO teaches breakdancing. So I guess you would maybe call us a purist to some degree, but I mean, not to where it would be harmful. Help me out here.
No, I think you got it right. I mean, we just believe that all the elements of hip-hop are beneficial. And we're talking about the right elements, because the things that we consider unbeneficial to us, they're unbeneficial to every culture across the board, not just to hip-hop. Right. And it's not just like hip-hop didn't invent sleeping around. Hip-hop didn't invent that. It was already here. Right. And so we just use the positive aspects that people know and love, and especially the artistic ones. And so, a lot of our schools don't have art programs anymore. Right. So we're starting a nonprofit in order to bring art to the community of Wakefield in a way that maybe hasn't been done. We don't know. We're still getting to know the community. We've only been there 2 months.
All right. Where is your community, by the way?
Well, we're at 4750 Bronx Boulevard, right by the corner of 242nd. It's in Wakefield in the Bronx, just North Bronx.
Uptown, baby.
Yeah, uptown, baby. That's right. And so we're doing now some breakfast for the community and stuff like that. So we're really trying to get involved with them we've connected with a men's shelter. I don't know if you want to talk about that because he's really made that connection very well.
Sure. So we do a program called Wake Up Wakefield. As Pastor said, Wakefield is the community that we're in the Bronx. So what we do once a month, we have a breakfast for the community. His son, Mr. Good Food, right? That's goodfood.com.
Yeah,
he chefs, professional chef, and he hooks it up. Really good breakfast, and we invite the community, families to come out and just hang out with us. We play some music, very casual, and we just have good food.
Your next one is on January 9th, it says?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, January 9th at 9:30 a.m. Please come by, bring your family, bring the kids, bring your grandma.
Don't hide your kids, hide your wife. Bring them.
Right, bring them to the
bring
church.
them all.
Yeah, you know, like
all
you
welcome.
Yeah. And it's leading to a concert that'll be on February 20th.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you know, put that in your calendar as well.
And all of that is free. We're
it's
not
all free.
Charging, and food is free.
How do you bring God and spirituality into hip hop? How did the two coalesce?
Man, I think God has been there from the beginning. And in my thesis, I wrote that God created hip hop, which shook a few of my Christian professors. But I really believe that God is in the creative process all along, and it's us that changes things around. And so I think he created it. I really believe that. And then
God is inspiration.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. God, I think all inspiration is God breathed. It's just what we do with our inspiration and how we change it that messes things up. But I mean, if you look at hip hop and you look at the church, you have call and response. You have call and response. You have an MC. You have a preacher. You have a crew. You have your leaders and elders and deacons, whatever you want to call it. So there's all of this commonality. If you put a rubric, I put a rubric up for this, and there are so many commonalities between hip-hop and the church.
Can you tell us a little about your toy giveaway that's coming up?
Yeah, we were blessed with a bunch of toys, like bags of toys. And so this Sunday, we're going to be giving away toys. Anybody wants to come. I think we're serving the first 100 or so, 150. Okay. Kids, the kids have to be there. That's the only criteria.
No big kids, actual little
children, right, absolutely. And we've wrapped them. We're wrapping some more on Saturday, so we'll be wrapping them, and they're brand new toys that we were given as a donation, and so, and whatever's left over, then we're giving to a homeless program we serve with called Man of Life, and they've been serving the South Bronx, Hunts Point area for 20 years, and so whatever's left over we give to them, and they'll give them out as well.
So that's going to be at your location
on Sunday.
On Sunday.
9:30 a.m. we open the door. If you come through at 9:30, there are snacks.
Ooh.
Coffee and snacks.
Yes.
Snacks.
That's right.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. If you want to know more information about Elements, where can people go? Do you have a
elementschurch.com.
Okay.
We have that website. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
They're everywhere, people.
Yeah,
everywhere.
we try to be.
Efrain and Randy, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure coming into your homes, and I'd like to thank our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Cablevision, Channel 67, Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. Have a great week, and don't forget to keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Merry Christmas.